Hi there. Welcome to a new series that we're trying to work on. It's going to be called the Marketing Detox. I feel once in a while we all need to have that little green juice that no one likes and go back to basics, take a couple of steps back and see what's going on there.
Absolutely. It's healthy for you.
I've got a very good friend of mine, Daniel Sulik.
Thanks for having me, mate. Appreciate it.
Great, and thanks for coming along. Really appreciate it. We are going to talk about a lot of things that revolve around the sales, marketing, every alignment possible that we're trying to bring in. And hence, someone like Dan, probably known him for almost 20 odd years.
Yeah, actually, yeah, heading on that way.
Yeah, I think so. And, very honored to have you and just share some lights and insights. And we will go through what does it really mean when we talk about a detox, when we're planning any kind of programs or any kind of campaigns. What are the initial steps that every marketer somehow, some way, shape, not just marketing, by the way, marketing, sales, business, pre-sales, delivery, whoever gets involved as a business altogether, 360.
Yep.
What are some of the things that we just absolutely miss? So before we go, do you want to give us a couple of, 2 cents worth? What do you do?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been in the IT game now, I think it was 20 years, I think, specifically around 17 or so, where you and I first met at Big Blue back when. No, I've been around the traps, predominantly with a foundation in marketing, but throughout my latter half of that 17 or so years, have also dabbled in sales development and partner relationships as well. So bit of an all-rounder, but yeah, ready to tackle the conversation that we have today with as many hats as I need to wear.
You need many hats.
Absolutely. My head's big enough, so.
No, I appreciate it, man. Like, why do we call it like the anti-playbook or like the detox mode, right? More than likely on a day-to-day basis, it's a chaos, right? As marketers, as sales, as business, we're all doing things that we are supposed to do. It's always chasing the ball out. It's never the same target. It keeps on moving. But what I see over and over, and now that we are almost at the end of 2025, 2026, when it begins, one of the key questions comes up to saying, look, let's reset and find out what the hell do we need to do for the next year, 2 years, whatever, the planning and everything. So I thought, why not create a detox series? We just talk about what that really means for the business altogether.
Yeah, absolutely.
And shed some thoughts and see where we go.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I agree. I think it's a good time too because in my most recent rhythms, September is around the time where we look and reflect. Various organisations would have their respective, quarterly business reviews, half-yearly reviews, etc. But I always found that September to be a really good time to actually kind of put a stake in the ground to look at, okay, 3 quarters are almost done and dusted. We now need to not only just look at what's worked, like the traffic light system, right? So it's your green. What are we doing again, right? That and this all ranges from tactics to integrated. Yellow, as in what should we do, but can be better that we've identified, and what's just a hard red. Right, so
let's not do that again.
Exactly, right. So this time of year, some organisations, again, depending on when their FY is. Most recently, for mine, it was the calendar year. So September really checked out. But again, looking at that, anywhere between 4 to 5 months out from the next financial year, that's when it's good to have that green juice.
And green juice it is.
Yeah,
because in my opinion, it's not just a sort of a marketing reset that we're talking about here.
No.
In every second year at least, to the most minimum, if you can do it every year, that's even better. But as a business, I'm sure we have all those QBRs and planning meetings and everything, but I still feel it's going into your weekly, monthly pipeline and everything, but who looks after the baselines, right?
Yeah.
So I feel that's probably a really good starting point for us today.
Yeah, absolutely.
In my opinion, the detoxing starts when we always say you need to take a couple of steps back to pounce 4 steps further. A detox for me is first getting an alignment between 360 degrees sort of stakeholders within your business come together. Yeah, you might have your annual meetings and whatnot, but this one is specifically designed to look at your baselines, right? And you were surprised. I have got a lot of planning meetings that I go to, and I asked a very simple question. I say, "Oh, what is your vision and mission statement, or what do you really want to be known for in the marketplace?" And not only will I get completely like very different answers, or I wouldn't say contrasting, but very no one's on the same alignment. Then it comes back to saying, well, we're trying to go to market with something, but there is absolutely no proper alignment on who we are, what we do, what do we really need to be known for, and that becomes a very crucial part.
Look, it does, and it's also a really good time to reflect. But going back to meeting basics 101, when you set up something like that, you need to communicate what the objective of that is, right? And those sessions are reflective, and you need to be okay that there may not be an outcome and that you may need to revisit this again. But to your point, going back and understanding, are we on the path of the mission and the vision? If you are, fantastic. If you're not, do we need to change the path, or do we need to change the vision and mission? Now, a lot of these organizations are globally run. You may not be able to do that, but at least at a local leadership point, you have within your control to influence the said path, and then come in agreement, as you say, 360, and then cascade that down to your respective teams. So it's always really good to reflect upon, are we setting out to achieve what the organisation did when it started, or when the most recent change to the M and the V have been.
I agree with you, and I think that's a very good point you made between the global and the local. Work with a lot of organizations where there is obviously the global presence, it's run by the head office and everything. Just because it works in the US for a particular industry does not mean it might work in Australia and New Zealand, because let's say healthcare is very decentralized here, it's very centralized. The way you work with healthcare here will be so different to what you would do there. So on and so forth, right? So your vision and mission statement does not only need to be about the industry verticals that you're going to go for. It also has to be based on what does your ideal customer look like? And we'll come back. First question. When you're talking about baseline, who from your organization should be a part of this story?
So for mine, the sales counterparts, it's critical, right? Being aligned with sales is so important, because this probably won't be the first time you'll hear me in this chat reference the 4x100 relay on the athletics track, because everyone has that baton, and I come from a world where marketing leads the race off, right, with the first baton, and then they'll either pass it on to the sales dev team, and then the sales dev team would pass it on to the sales account team, and so forth, right? So having that sales alignment there, in partnership, and that's a very important term, in partnership, is extremely important. My other one would have to be not only revenue operations, but operations in general, like the ones with the data, because you need to lead every discussion and every decision made through the lens of reviewing your data, because that should be leading the way.
Correct.
And then
historical and futuristic.
Because again, like those PSAs on performing superannuation funds, historical data does not always predict future performance, but you need to start off with a baseline to tell you this is the lay of the land, this is where we have our existing opportunity, and this is what we should do and how we should do it here. This is where we have an opportunity for growth. The data's telling us this. Perhaps we should align X, Y, and Z. Now, that solution mode, you have those conversations further on. So for mine, it's sales, operations, revenue operations. And then depending on how large your organization is, you would then look at your customer success team as well, because you also got to
be basically sales, delivery, correct, customer engagement later on,
correct,
and service basically.
So post sales, right? The ones that actually work with your existing base, they're the ones that can also tell you invaluable information based on trends, etc., that they may be seeing through the data sets that they deal with daily. I didn't mention marketing because we're already assuming marketing's in the room. People aren't having the conversation right now. So yeah, those would be the main, 3 to 4, 360 as you put it, in the room having the conversation.
It's interesting you say operations, right?
Yep.
Because in my opinion or experience so far, sales operations have not been involved other than talking about your CRM data,
Yep.
or talking about deal registration details. I feel they should be involved way more into the decision making, saying historically what has worked, of course there might be at the sales level.
Yeah.
But I don't think marketing and sales operations have that, let me call it native integration that they should.
Look, I can only speak for myself here. I think you know that not only that I can be annoying, I'm just very curious, right? So in more of my latter half of my journey, I've been very curious about the data, and I've been working very closely with sales RevOps to understand the trends that we're seeing. Conversations where they could start, next to the water cooler, or just comments being made. I need more pipe. Well, let's look at that. Right? I would go down to the macro level of, each individual account rep to understand, do they actually need it, or do they need more pipeline acceleration because they could have enough pipeline. So that's a basic example where I would be partnering very closely with sales ops, and that'd enable me, right? That'd give me the dashboards. I can do, everything that I can on my own from a self-service perspective. But if you're able to have those individuals or that individuals in the room to be able to go, well, actually, this is what the data is telling us from a product perspective, from a company size perspective, from a vertical perspective, and they're very objective individuals, right? We can all be quite emotive about our work, right? Whether it's from our campaigns that we run, or if you're in the sales, the sales or op motion that you're running. There's something wrong with if you weren't subjective or emotionally attached to that. But I've always found that having an objective third party, like your RevOps or your sales ops, in the conversation to be able to just go, no, these are numbers, this is what the numbers are telling us, and they have a point of view as well, which is very objective.
Almost critical. Yeah.
Exactly. And that for me is like your I don't know if the right term is the measuring stick or litmus, but they're there to try and make everything as objective as possible. So that's why it's really important for me, at least, to have those individuals in the room.
Agree. And I think that's majority of the part. And in my opinion, when these stakeholders come together, understanding your historical significance, what has happened, what we should and should not, and then mapping up, like I was saying earlier, your vision, mission statement, or what you really want to be known for in the marketplace, and then comparing the two buckets together. I think that becomes almost quite vital for your day-to-day running of the business.
Yes.
And yes, it has to come from top down, your CEOs and the head of strategy or whoever, chief revenue officer. They need to lead this. But in my opinion, I think marketing almost needs to be the one who puts this all together.
Together.
Correct. Yeah. Because if they do not, they're the probably only ones who has got the dynamics of not just what's happening right now, but also what the future trends look like, or where we should be focusing on. To give an example, I had a business that we were doing a lot of strategy work on, and initially they started off just focusing on local gov. That's how they started. Now we said, well, great. We started asking simple questions. Why local gov? Why would you only look into local gov? What is the core competency that makes you only local gov? And the more I sort of dug in, and then what you want to be known for and all that stuff, it turns out, well, they just the first 2 deals that they did were in local gov, and they found a comfort zone, and they say, yep, local gov it is. We're just gonna. It does not mean that this product is not suitable to any other vertical or any other kind of client. Having your strategy done in such a way where you should almost be able to figure out what buckets are going to have the highest amount of impact
Yep.
to your audience
Yep.
at the lowest amount of friction
Yep.
and highest amount of performance.
Yep.
Not just for your clients, but their clients, and obviously for your business. Right?
Yep.
The challenge is trying to find that friction, the least amount of friction, not just to service a particular account, but also to build that relationships and close that account.
Yep.
When you start looking at that equation, it totally changes the dynamics of how you want to market.
Oh yeah.
What have you had?
I'm with you, and the one thing that you highlighted there is working in parallel. So the example that you've used there, identified a sweet spot. Now, whether that was intentional or not, that is a data set that if their first two deals were local gov, well, we might have some traction here. Let's focus on that. And then building on that, they might have signed up a lot more local councils, local governments, and then to your point, when they have their own green juice, they might go, well, we need two speeds now, right? We need to continue to work on our foundation, and keep, farming.
Correct.
To your point, does our offering also benefit other verticals? Yes, it does. Great. Do we go adjacent now and go state departments, etc.? Because it's still within that family of government entities, and then. Or have we, throughout this X amount of time, also identified another use case that is outside, that is in private sector, right? So again, that's important to determine, what do we keep doing, the green light, where the opportunity is, and then, and I don't know if I'm going ahead in our conversation, but this is where you start to, with those people in the room, bring them together and try to get them on the same page. Because not one individual owns this. Right? A lot of organizations, the leadership team owns the vision. Particular leaders of that team own a particular action item, and it might not be aligned to their departmental alignment, which I think is awesome. But that drive then needs to happen, right? So, and again, one of the most important things that I've seen throughout my experience is that you need sales to agree with what you're doing. Again, I'm going very niche or specific with the marketing sales, right? You need to get them on board, comfortable to partner with you. And this goes for the direction of the organization too, locally.
Totally. And actually, let's just jump into that anyway, right? Sure. Because this is where the data comes in, right? And again, why marketing, RevOps, head of sales, head of business, your practice leaders, when they're all coming together. Now we go back into saying, all right, well then, what does our ideal customer look like, right? Where do we find that data? Well, there are so many different ways to, find that information. As you mentioned, yes, look at progressively what has happened. Historical records show us where we are able to find that least friction, highest performance client. And it's not just about where you make the most money. Sometimes it's about also how long did it take you to make that much money, or your sales, and you need to be able to compare what does that look like as an ideal customer. So the way we look at it is saying, like you mentioned, peripheral, like your non-core accounts right now where you're doing it, peripheral accounts, and then of course then looking into where you can fit your offerings, whatever you have. Let's give you another example. I've got a security company I've been working with, IT security. They started with initial just, what do you call that, penetration testing. So pen test, did all that stuff, and then they wanted to go into other solutions, and then they had their own SOC and all that. All of a sudden, now their offerings have gone from an organization who could just test and do QA to proper having an infrastructure behind it. And organizations really appreciate having a local SOC. The data stays local and all that because of security reasons. We're able to exercise data based on three key factors, and you tell me if there is a fourth one or not.
Sure.
One is you're looking at your total addressable market. Like, okay, well, in Australia, we can sell to these 20,000 accounts, right? With which you then find, all right, how many of them are showing any kind of intent There are a lot of intent companies, as you know, like Bumblers of the world and Six Sense and all that. But it's not just about those intent.
Yeah.
There are so many different ways you could do it based on your own keyword analysis and search terms and how many people are looking through those.
Yes.
And coming to your site.
Yeah.
Because nowadays you can have a little tag on your site and tell you exactly which companies are looking at your business.
Yeah.
Right? No one's talking about them. Right? It says, these 20 organizations who are perfectly fitting the ideal customer profiles have visited us.
Yeah.
Part of our accounts plan. Why?
Yeah.
It's the algorithm. And the third way where the trifecta matches is where the account plan of your sales teams also have those three like these companies into the same bracket. So they're showing intent, they're in your ideal customer profile, and also into your account profile, and they meet in the middle, right? And I think for our viewers, I might show a little graph there, if you can see it on the screen at the moment. And this is where the trifecta comes in. Yeah. Right. Have you had any experience with that?
No. I'm with you on those. The one thing that my head went to straight away was around just looking at what is working for you, right? And that sweet spot. So that example where you said there's 20 or 22,000 accounts. I mean, you're not going after them, right? So you look at the DNA of that account set of those 22 and how many you are currently engaged with, as in which of your existing customers fit that mold, which of those are in the current pipeline, and then you can look at that as your addressable, and that significantly reduces that 22 down to focus, because you need that focus, right?
Correct.
And then what also happens is you look at the profile of those existing, and that'll determine, say, for instance, the revenue or seat size. That'll narrow it down even further. Again, the one thing you do want is that focus, but there's nothing wrong with having aspirational, ambitions, targets, whatever it may be, but they need to be clearly defined. You need to know what your focus is and then where you want to head. And I've seen too much of them intertwined where you lose focus.
Yeah.
Right? Because, holy crap, so-and-so has just, come visit my website. Yeah, but they're not part of your profile. It's good. Let's see what's happening. Yeah, exactly. But don't lose track. You need to go down there. Right? Keep going there. Don't track a left. Right? Keep going down that path. To be fair, those individual so-and-so, it's exciting, right? But you need to keep doing and focusing on what is working to continue to build, but then have that aspiration, but more importantly, have a plan for those aspirational,
Totally. And this is the beginning of when you guys build a brief for your marketing set. The baselines have to be so strong where we know what are the key areas that we're looking for to grow our offerings. Everyone agrees. Then we say, what does our ideal customer look like? Everyone has to agree. That's saying, right, this is where we really want to grow our business in. And finally, we need to then look at, all right, what are we saying to them? The messaging aspect and that's where your marketing have a lot more room to be more creative and help you come up with ideas on how we can build that rapport for that piece of the puzzle. So if you have these three key areas in your brief at the beginning, you will find totally different ways of building your ABM. We'll talk more. Account-based market. Well, technically it has to be account-based marketing or not. We'll talk quickly, but I don't see marketing as a word in account-based marketing. I think Daniel, you agree with that.
No,
it's not marketing.
It's everyone. It's everyone that's at the table.
Correct.
So whether you call it account-based strategies or account-based growth, I think it's an inaccurate acronym.
Agreed. And let's say you, in your whole strategy meetings, you decided, well, look, I've got 10 sales reps. Each sales rep is going to only focus on these 4 to 10 or 5 to 10 accounts. That's your 100 accounts for 10 reps. Brilliant. But each one of those account reps, that 5 to 10 accounts, our job is to go as deep as possible into. So fewer accounts, deeper engagement. And this is where the three principles of account-based strategies come in. One is if you have one to few accounts, one rep looking after few accounts, one to one, if you have only one account or one or two accounts that you really want to grow deep into.
Yeah.
And finally, if you have one to many. I think one to many, maybe 15 to 20 accounts is my upper cap.
Yeah.
Anything more than that, it's not about ABM anymore.
Yeah,
it's just too far.
Yeah, correct. I mean, that's why the one to few and one to many is, it's kind of a grey area. Like one to few, I'm with you. Like if you're grouping four, like that's ideal. Given again, I talk about the account DNA. If they've got the similar drivers, and we're all about scale too, right?
Yeah.
Where it makes sense, where the importance is, that's where you do the one-to-one.
Yeah.
But you've got to identify that as a collective team.
Correct.
Not just one department on its own saying, no, we've got to do ABS for this one, right?
Correct.
It's not. You've got to...
This way, right? So I'm not expecting, obviously, you to go after the top four banks all the time.
Yeah.
Even if you're looking at all the other, like Australia, relatively a smaller market compared to the US, I get that. But if you look at the ASX 200, ASX 300 listed companies, even ASX 500 listed companies, you're looking at significant amount of companies or accounts that are more than 1,000 seats on an average, or probably making more than 100 and 200 million dollars worth of revenue range. Where it all falls apart is when you're just going in a spray gun approach. I've had companies who are just absolutely spending gazillion dollars on paid ads and all that stuff, and just bringing it into the website. And I'm like, there's no hyper-targeted thought process here. Hyper EBM or hyper ABS, hyper account-based strategies, like going so far down in an account where that account doesn't even know that you are a different company altogether. So if you were to go to like a CBA, for example, you know that you've just sold to one buying center in CBA, and there is 20 people in that buying center that you're working with. But something size of a CBA, again, that's not the most ideal example, but if you look at it from an account-based strategies perspective, I could have another 15 to 20 buying centers. Like you sold to retail bank, you can go to commercial bank, investment banking, this, that, whatever. Like each and every one will have a team of 20. Identify them. Start your journey saying, look, I have all these inroads with your account.
Correct.
This is what I'm doing with them. And find reasons for your sales team to be in front of the other 300 people within one account.
And the beauty about that is you don't need marketing for that.
No.
You have an account team, right? If you have an ADR, SDR, BDR, whichever acronym that you want to use, you might already have a technical account manager assigned to the account, right? This is where you actually should be hitting the phones, making introductions, and moving the needle yourselves.
You could actually do an ad campaign, paid ad, for one account. Right? We have about, 3,000-5,000 people in that account that we wanted to shortlist. And we did really targeted micro roundtables, high end. People didn't even know that we were another company who was trying to CBA. It felt like it was a CBA event, and people came in, and we went by buying center, based on regions where they were based and all that. It's a different story. So a lot of times, even doing events, people think, oh, I've got too many people coming from one account. It's great, because all of a sudden you're getting the entire buying committee to make decisions and understand what you are. Hoping that you're not doing a massive sales pitch. If you're doing that's unfortunate. But if you are doing that, that's great. That's you want to go as deep as possible. But anyway, I feel that's where the data-driven thought process comes in. In building a brief. To have the right kind of people, right kind of accounts, ideal customers, and so on.
No, mate, I'm with you, and I think we covered a lot in terms of the foundation of a brief, but we can sum it up, at least for mine, it's all about the context. Right? So before you even start the brief, it's have that juice with the team. The green juice. You look at where you are, where you want to be. And then you naturally, because not one individual looks after everything, you've got to break away into what you've been hired to do, and lead the team that is within your function, to then go, okay, this is what we need to now action. And going back to this being the marketing detox, the marketer in you and, in the team that you're running need to now look at, okay, this is where we're going to be. So what do we need? We need that data, like you said. We need the context. Why are we doing it?
Correct.
Right? And it's the why that is very subjective, because the origin of the why can come from anywhere. It can come from a passing comment. We need to do this amount in NZ. Oh, okay, why? Right? So then you dig in. What did we do in NZ? What's our current pipe in NZ? Do you know what I mean? And then from there, that's where I can, what do we need to do? Do we need to continue on? Do we need something new? So with the brief, my advice is to provide as much context, but also look at the stakeholders that need to be on this journey with you. Keep them in mind, because they're going to be partnering with you heavily on this. And the default stakeholder here is sales, right? So you need to ensure that your respective, not just account reps, but the leaders of those account reps are bought in. Do they see the same vision as you? But again, have those conversations that are data-backed, that underpin you why. Get them on board. And that's what your brief is, right? I mean, we're not here to go into the tactics of it. But for mine, the big one here is context that is data-backed within your brief.
Correct. I agree with you. And I think even if I had to summarize, the session, key pointers to take away. Right? The very first one is to get the right stakeholders into the mix. Do it every year, start of the year, whatever your revenue model or cycle is. Start of the year. Probably not start of the year, but before that. So what is going to happen next year? You get all the key stakeholders, take them somewhere. I know a lot of organizations have their getaways. I think most of them end up becoming just award ceremonies and flat meet studies and stuff.
And to those particular individuals, that's a different whole organisation. And what we're talking about here is, if you can certainly afford the time and also have the budget for it, this is where you take your leadership team out and just make it like a reflection session.
And honestly, I've run these sessions a lot of times where it doesn't have to be like a whole weekend out, right? It needs 2 proper, absolute crazy hours in the morning. People are fresh. After lunch, it's gonna go. Everyone's, Get the right stakeholders, understand your vision, mission statement, agree on it, make sure that what you want to be known for in the marketplace is absolutely aligned within ops, sales, marketing, everyone, leadership. 3 is then backing up with data. Right? This is where your data science comes in. What has happened in the past, historically, and where you're going. Identify your ideal customer then. This is where the structure of a brief comes in. Who's your ideal customer? Where they're at? How big are they? Where are some of the key identifiers for them? Whether it's industry vertical, whether it's the size of the organization, whatever it is, right? Or region. Once you know them, then you go into the buyer persona mapping, saying who within those organizations are buyers or influencers or sit on the committee or have a seat at the table. Who are they? What do they look like? Literally name them, and I can run a separate session on that in the coming days in one of the marketing detox, maybe part 2.
But
the brief needs to have these very basic baselines, and marketing cannot do anything until they have these baselines. I've gone to meetings where I've been briefed saying, can you give me 30 leads in next week? I'm like, what does that even mean? Right? And it's frustrating as a marketer thinking, this is a multi-billion-dollar business giving me a brief like that and expecting me wonders. It's not going to work. And I lose business every day to others who would say, yes, I'll give you 30 leads in 30 days. Don't give me a brief, I'll just give you 30 leads. Something like, who buys like that? No one buys like that anymore. I've somehow adjusted to the feeling that I would rather lose that business.
It's every right to do that, because you're seeing the big picture.
Exactly. Anyway, any points you would to summarize?
No, I think I've harped on enough. I concur with your takeaways there. But again, just harping on not just the data, but the stakeholder alignment.
Yeah.
You need buy-in. You're not doing this alone.
Yeah.
You cannot do it alone.
No, you can't. You don't.
Because again, going back to that 4x100, that baton, you're going to need to hand it off, and unless that person knows that you're going to hand it off, it'll just get dropped and your race is over before it even started.
Well, agree. Well, let me summarize here. Well, thank you for all tuning in. If you're on LinkedIn, do like, subscribe, or on YouTube, do the same. If you have any comments that you would like to make or get in touch with us, I'm pretty sure you know where to find us. But if you found this session, well put, or
Perhaps. So I want to challenge us,
or challenge
your comments.
your comments and give us a nudge and see how we go. And until then, happy marketing.
Thank you.